In this video, we're going to take a look at the Safari ME from Lion Energy. The Safari ME is a 2,000 watt portable power station that's designed from the ground up to be expandable. The base unit ME comes with 922 watt hours of energy storage, which may seem low for its size and power handling capabilities of 2,000 watts continuous and 4,000 watts peak. But add in the expansion pack for another 2,048 watt hours for a total of 2,970 watt hours, and you have a Titanic-sized alternative to a gasoline generator. For this review, I was sent the Safari ME, the XP expansion pack, a 25-foot extension cable, and 4 of the Lion Energy 24-volt 100-watt solar panels to make this a true solar generator. These solar panels are really cool, so stay tuned for later in the video to check those out. But for now, we'll focus just on the Safari ME itself. Inside the box is just the user manual and the power station itself. The XP expansion pack and the solar panels have their own cables with them, so there isn't any need for that in the base unit. And the AC charging cable is integrated into the back of the power station and cannot be removed, which makes it really handy to not have to keep track of a cable. Here you can see on the user manual a US address for Lion Energy. Yes, this is a company based in Utah, and all of the sales, customer service, and other employees that I worked with on this video are all here in the United States. Let's take a look around the outside of the Safari ME. On the front panel are all of the outputs for DC, USB, and AC, as well as an LED display panel and an on-off switch. On the left and right side are just some vents for keeping the ME cool. On the back, you can see the AC charging cable and the unique clips that hold it out of the way when not in use. You can also see where the XP expansion pack connects, as well as the Anderson connectors for the solar input. As you can tell, you can see through the side vents into the internal circuitry and wiring of the power station. So please keep in mind that this unit is built for rugged portability, but it doesn't have an IP rating, meaning it will need to be protected from dust and moisture. As with every other power station or battery pack, they will arrive mostly discharged for safety in transit. So the first thing we need to do before we get into the testing is charge it up. And while we're on this subject, let me just tell you that I absolutely love the permanently attached charging cord. I hope that this feature becomes industry standard in the future because it's that good. It has built-in slots to hide it when you aren't using it, so you always know where that cable is. And if you use the ME on a regular or daily basis, you don't need to worry about any mechanical failure of an AC charging port as it gets plugged and unplugged a million times. Anyway, let's plug it in and get ready for some testing. With the Safari ME fully charged, we'll do some testing with it by itself, and then later in the video we'll add in the expansion pack and solar panels. Here's the scorecard that shows all the ratings we'll be attempting to test. In the second column from the left are Lion Energy's factory ratings. In the third column, we will record the results of each test and whether it was a pass or fail. In the far right column are some notes. So first up are the capacity tests. If you're new to my channel and reviews, what you see in the background is my AC test rig. I have 4 light sockets mounted and attached to a breaker box, which is fed by the test device's AC output. I can mix and match light bulbs to achieve almost any wattage I want, up to about 1,000 watts. Let's start with the low power test, which I always aim for about 30% of the rated continuous output. Since the Safari ME can output 2,000 watts continuous, that means about 600 watts. I'm going to use a power meter to make sure I'm as close to 600 watts as I can get. And that brings me to my first criticism and negative of the Safari ME. And that is that the LED display on the unit does not give the number of watts, either output or input. It only shows a state of charge percentage and an estimated time to empty or to full. Lion Energy did tell me that future models will have that built in, but I would hope that that kind of information would be standard by now on every power station. Anyway, I turned on 2 250 watt heat lamps and 1 100 watt incandescent light bulb for the load and let it run. So the low power test ran for 77 minutes at just under 600 watts, which is around 83% of the rated capacity of 922 watt hours. So that's a passing grade. Remember, there will naturally be losses through the inverter, so it's impossible to get a 100% capacity test. With the Safari ME recharged, we'll run the same test on a high power level of around 90%, which is 1800 watts. To do that, I'm going to add a space heater to the mix, which consumes about 1400 watts on its highest setting. Adding in a 250 watt heat lamp and a 100 watt incandescent light bulb achieves a constant 1720 watts, which is close enough. So I let that run while I monitored the power meter to make sure the voltage and frequency weren't sagging under load. After 25 minutes, the Safari ME gave up and shut off. That scores an 83% again, so that's another pass test. Obviously, that last test pushed the cooling system of the Safari ME, so I wanted to show you how loud it is with the fans at their maximum. I measure about 68 decibels, which is pretty loud, but thankfully they were only noticeable under a very high load. With the Safari ME recharged once more and cooled back down to normal, it was time for the torture test. Let's see what happens when we go over the 2000 watt mark. For this test, I put 4 250 watt heat lamps in the light sockets and used the space heater on its high setting and waited for it to climb to over 1500 watts. Then I switched on all 4 of the heat lamps. My test rig isn't sophisticated enough to be able to test the full 4000 watt surge capability, but it did go well over 2000 watts for 2 or 3 seconds. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it to stay running above 2000 watts for 10 seconds. Now that isn't a big deal to not pass that test because most units I test can't do that either. But I do like to try it out anyway just to see how long it will let you go over power. Before we add in the XP expansion pack to the mix, I recharged the Safari ME and took it inside for a few tests. First, let's see if it can run a 10,000 BTU window air conditioner. So, if it can do that, then we don't need to bother with a dorm fridge, which would be even easier to spin up. But let's go ahead and test the pass-through charging and UPS capabilities. Here I have a computer and monitor connected to the AC output of the Safari, which will only stay running if it has a UPS function when I pull the charging cable. So that works just fine, even though Lion Energy doesn't publish it as an actual feature. So that's 4 more pass tests on the scorecard. Now let's add in the XP expansion pack. In order to charge it up, you do have to connect it to the Safari ME. On the back of the expansion pack is a cubby that contains the super beefy cable that runs between the 2 units. Again, this cable is permanently mounted to the XP, so there's no need to keep track of a separate cable. After connecting the charging cable to the wall, I let it run for several hours to charge up. Keep in mind that with the 2 units connected together, you now have a single functioning device with about 3000 watt hours of capacity, so it will take a long time to charge up that much battery storage. Lion Energy rates it as an additional 3 hours and 4 minutes above and beyond the Safari ME itself. With everything fully charged, I took the ME plus XP back out for capacity testing. First, I reran the low power test with everything the same as before. At a 600 watt load, it ran for 286 minutes. Then I recharged the whole thing and reran the high power test with everything the same as before. At a 1720 watt load, it ran for 100 minutes. Shockingly, with the expansion pack, the overall unit is a lot more efficient and scored 96% of the target capacity in both tests. That's actually insane. Very nice job, Lion Energy. Unfortunately, I had some issues on my end with my DC testing rig for this video, so I wasn't able to do a proper test of the DC output of the Safari ME. But just so you know, Lion Energy rates the cigarette lighter output at 15 amps, which is higher than any other unit I've ever seen. Most units top out at 10 amps. I also still can't test the pure sine wave waveform of the AC output, so we'll have to skip that test too. But we know by now that the 2000 watt continuous output rating is accurate, and I checked the AC voltage and frequency in all of the tests so far, and it consistently showed 116 volts and 60 hertz, which are both good. So all we have left are the solar charging and dual charging tests and the AC charging test. Lion Energy rates the AC charging at 668 watts, but in my testing it averaged around 690 watts. It also took 88 minutes to fully recharge, which is within a few minutes of what Lion Energy claims. After waiting for a week for a sunny day, it was time to test the Lion Energy solar panels and solar charging capabilities of the Safari ME. And let me tell you, these are by far my favorite portable solar panels. They combine the best of both worlds by using traditional glass panels with aluminum frames instead of the laminated, semi-flexible panels that I've shown you don't last very long at all. But they hinge the panels together so that they fold up like a suitcase and have extendable aluminum legs to prop them up in the right position. They also come with a rubber case that zips up around the suitcase panels when they're being stored so they won't get damaged. And while they are a bit heavier than semi-flexible folding panels, they're going to last forever, and they also won't blow over in the wind. So here you can see the full 400 watts of panels deployed in the sun. They all have Anderson connectors that make connecting them in parallel super easy. And the 25-foot Anderson extension cable means you can keep the Safari ME itself inside your RV or tent or somewhere out of the weather. If you're going to use your own panels instead of the official Lion Energy units, just make sure that they are between 36 volts VMP and 60 volts VOC. Unfortunately, I was sent the 400 watts of panels and not 600 watts, so I can't test the max input on the solar side. I also can't tell you how many watts that 400 watt array was inputting to the Safari ME because the LED display doesn't tell you incoming watts, and the positive and negative leads on the charging cable are wrapped together, so I can't get a clamp meter around one or the other to tell you how much current's coming in. What I can tell you is how awesome these panels are, even down to the small details like labeling the input and output cables on the back and giving you a heavy-duty spring-loaded handle on top to carry them with, and clasps to keep the panels in the folded position. Now, even though Lion Energy doesn't say that the Safari can dual charge with both solar and AC at the same time, I tested it anyway. Sure enough, it was one or the other. I'm not going to give it a fail on that test because it isn't supposed to be able to do it. But most power stations now can dual charge, so hopefully they'll add this capability on future models. I certainly have passed along my feedback about that. Here's the final scorecard. The 922 watt-hours of base capacity for the ME is accurate and verified. And while I was unable to confirm the solar charging specs, I did confirm that dual charging is out. Overall, the Safari tested outstandingly well in every test that I could actually complete. And the one fail I have here really isn't a fail because I made that test up. But it does provide some context for you on how surges are handled and how quickly it shuts down the party. In conclusion, the Safari ME by Lion Energy is a solid power station that's turned outstanding when you add in the XP expansion pack. It goes from good to great with higher efficiency and over triple the capacity. Add in some of the best portable solar panels on the market and you have an unbeatable all-in-one solar generator system for any boondocking, overlanding, remote job site, or camping need you can come up with. Thanks for watching this video. If you're interested in purchasing the Safari ME, be sure to use the links in the video description below to help me out.